Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 220 of Red Wings Rant, where tirades and impassioned pleas for your Detroit Red Wings finally have a home. Today, very special guest here with us. I'm gonna bring Jake. You hang. There's your face. I'm gonna have you hang on just for a sec. We're talking trade deadline stuff. We've got. We don't have anything we're too excited about. But we'll run through everything that's going on across the league. But of course, as we teased earlier the week, our boy from Winging It in Motown, Jake Rivard, is here. Jake, how are you doing? Did you? Oh, no, you're muted. Unmute yourself, Jake. Say hello.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, no.
What's going on? Hey, everybody.
There we go. So, Jake, I did warn you. This won't go down as the last episode that we had you as a guest, only because we have actual hockey stuff to talk about, and we had we had time before. We could just talk about how it goes for you putting together your wonderful works of art. So this is my quick plug, of course, to make sure you're following Jake Rivard on I think is it Rivard NHL?
Yep, Rivard NHL.
On Twitter and on Winging It in Motown. And of course, go back and watch our old episode where we had a chance just to chat not only about Red Wings hockey, but we also just talked about journalism. And of course, Jake's approach is way more fun than I think you'd get just from nothing wrong with the beat writers. But of course, this is more of Jake, how would I'll let you describe it. You're the worder. You're the
controlled chaos. I like to have a little bit more fun than your traditional Helene or your Answer Con, because ultimately, these guys are human beings. They're not like robots that are just out there to score points and win cups. Like there's got to be a bit of personality. That's what makes the Wings so special, and that's something that I try to bring every day.
And that's where I wouldn't say I'm selecting who I want to be a guest. I feel like this is probably going to be the introvert in me coming out hardcore right now. But it's there's writers I feel more comfortable approaching. And I hope that's a compliment.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So it's not anything where I think I've said I will only have these folks, but they're the folks that I actually want to talk to is probably where and that's where you're more approachable. And that's why you've been on the show now twice, and I really appreciate it. And again, everybody go back and check out that other episode we ran together. Jake, we're gonna say hi along the way to all of our friends here. Mike S. thrown out there. He was thrown out there about 45 minutes ago, letting us know about that Stecher trade. Mike, I hope you've had a moment to go hit the restroom, grab a drink. But Tristan, my man, you're here. How are you doing? Anthony's here. And Jake, I feel like you'd recognize Anthony off of Twitter. He is very vocal on Twitter, so I know he's hit me up. I gotta believe that you guys have interacted at least once on Twitter.
Oh, I'm sure.
All right,
it's between the amount of fans that we'll talk and the amount of Hawks fans that show up on every reply I could come up with. I get something from everyone.
He's coming over from Australia, so he got some swag a couple of weeks ago, and I found out just how long it takes to have our swag sent over to Australia. It's about a month. So
right on.
Quick warning. So let's jump into this stuff. We have, of course, the trade deadline tomorrow at 3 p.m. Chewy, what's going on? Good to see you here. We have a lot of other non-Red Wing trades to talk about so far, but we have one, and I don't know. You know what? I was gonna say
the real blockbuster, guys.
Yeah, I was gonna say if we could stretch this out into a 60-minute conversation. I didn't want to say this, but I was gonna say we'll do some sort of donation to if we could actually do it, if we could hit that 60-minute mark. We'll do a donation to somebody's, charity of choice if that was possible. But it would be impossible. There's no way we could talk about this for 60 minutes. And it's the Red Wings acquiring a 7th round pick, Los Angeles' 7th round pick for Troy Stecher. Jake, I'm gonna let you go first because you're the guest. You can take as many opinions as you want on this one, and then I'll step in and we'll see where we're at.
I mean, my initial thoughts were, oh yeah, good. All right, sorry, I was lagging a bit. Yeah, I mean, as far as Troy Stecher goes, he's coming off of a shoulder surgery. Played, I don't know what, 15 games so far this season. He's a depth guy. I wouldn't have expected much in return for him. A solid. I was expecting maybe like a 6th round pick, but I can stomach a 7th. Like, not the end of the world. But oh yeah, okay, cool. Still there? All right.
So here's what's going on. I'm messaging you. Everybody's gonna see this message way before you're gonna see it. But we have like an 8 to 10 second lag between us responding to each other. So this is gonna be juicy.
Let me try refreshing real quick.
Yeah, Jake's gonna try and refresh. We'll see him back in just a second here, but I don't think Jake missed anything here. There's nothing to be too excited about. There's nothing to hate either. I think this is something too, like when it comes to moving Troy Stecher, you have to be really realistic with the fact that even the Red Wings weren't willing to make him an everyday player. So what kind of conversation is that going to be when Steve Yzerman is trying to sell? All right, we should do this thing where maybe we can clap at the same time.
Right.
Oh, that was good. Okay, that was a good response time. But basically what I was saying was if you have a guy like Troy Stecher who you aren't putting in every day, what kind of conversation are you having over the phone where you're like, no, this guy's worth more than the 7th round pick. He's just, we're so loaded here in Detroit. We couldn't possibly fit him in anywhere. So it's one of those things being more realistic. I think it's fine. Like maybe it's okay to be upset about it or like a little bummed. I think you could be sort of not like you're not excited. I think that's the proper response. Like you saw this trade come in and you went meh, and I mean the generic Red Wing fan, spot on. Because I was in the middle of the grocery store and I said, I don't even think I need to tweet about this right now. But yeah, that's long and short of it.
If you look at it from LA's position too, they've got, I don't know, 5 out of 6 of their defensemen are injured right now. Stetcher's probably coming in as a replacement for a temporary Band-Aid. Once they get their guys back, I think the odds of Stecher getting waived is pretty high.
And that's actually a great point too, which we'll talk a little bit here about some of the future transactions for some of the guys that were moved. And that's one, at least for me. Troy is just going to be a man on the move for the rest of his career. It kind of looks like it's nothing wrong with that. Maybe he'll end up back in Vancouver. I know they loved him up there, but that is a great point on Troy. And the long and short of it again is we weren't going to hit 60 minutes of dissecting this, so I think it's about time we moved on to the rest of the trades. As always. We'll kind of pull the curtain back here. Matt's pulling up Cap Friendly, and this is what I would say would be the go-to for any of y'all that are going to be checking this stuff out, just to keep yourself updated on everything here, because this thing is so clean and beautiful. If we could talk about Cap Friendly for a second, like they don't have like let's say graphically, is it the most exciting? Absolutely
accessible.
Not.
I mean,
oh my God, accessible is the most perfect word for that. That's
anybody can pick it up.
Yeah, this is something you're just rolling through. This is exactly what I wanted to see. Was this list of all these trades here? I'm gonna see how far back we want to go, where these are still legit conversations. I guess we could start with, and we want to touch pretty light on these. Again, I know this. I mean, this is Red Wings Rant, right? We don't want to spend too much time talking about these other teams that are improving or collecting draft picks, or probably getting more draft picks than the Wingdings so far. Ben Sherratt getting moved out of Montreal, and you know what? that actually, we talked about that in the last episode. Nothing. I would have not made that move myself if I was Florida. I would have been more on the Mark Giordano trade or train. That's what I mean to say.
What a return!
We can talk
for
about both of those at the
Montreal.
same time. Oh my God, yeah, the return to Montreal is insane. But if I had to put that to you, there's some salary retained here, it looks like, but there was retained salary for the Giordano trade. Top of your head,
And
who would you rather have? Norris Trophy winner a couple years ago, or Ben Sherratt?
What drives me crazy is like in the playoffs, Ben Sherratt was like getting burned by Tampa every single game. And somebody looks at that and thinks, yeah, that's worth a first round pick, fourth round pick, and a prospect. Like, what?
Yeah, and so I mean, we could go through this. Let's compare these two, right? So just forgive me here. Smilanek, put that out there. A fourth round pick in 2022, first round pick conditional in 2023 is what Montreal is getting back. I mean, right there for me, Montreal wins this trade. Now Seattle,
Easily.
I mean, yeah, we got to look. Second round pick, 2 second round picks, 2022 and 2023, and a 2024 third round pick going to Seattle. From Toronto. Toronto's picking up Giordano and Colin Blackwell. Of the two returns for what you gave up, if you had to compare Florida and now Florida, didn't only collect Ben Sherratt, as we'll go into that in a second, but those two defensemen, I think easily the winner here is Toronto picking up Giordano.
Easily, yeah. Giordano's a much better player. I mean, like you just said, won the Norris a couple years ago. Like this is a clear-cut win for Toronto,
and just if somebody who probably knows more than me can correct me on this, Giordano Barry on a pair when Giordano won the Norris.
Brody, you mean? Yeah.
Oh, did that? Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, I believe so. It's either him or no. Hamilton was already gone by then.
So I mean, there's potential there for Toronto to link up those pairings, and we know, Toronto's failings have actually been putting goals up. So this doesn't necessarily solve that problem. I mean, you've got an offensive minded defenseman, but I think some people were kind of hoping that they were going to land the other Florida Panthers acquisition.
There is actually a bit of Wings related news with Toronto.
Oh, go for it.
I mean, earlier today they waived Peter Marazzic, our good old fashioned starting goaltender, and they signed Harri Sateri, which if you've ever watched the Grand Rapids Griffins a couple years ago, he was the starter for a while. Won a medal with Finland this year, and it looks like he's going to be passing through waivers too. So some team could just easily pick him up, and it could be 2 huge losses for Toronto.
Well, hey, you know what? That's good news for us because that's there's 2 teams I don't think we've ever wavered on in regards as Wings fans speak to the ones we'll never stop hating.
They
Chicago
should just sign Tom McCollum while they're at it.
There you go. So other trades that we're moving through. We had Travis Dermot we can talk about here for a third round pick getting moved. I mean, if there's anything I care less about is a trade that. So Troy Stecher we'll talk about because it actually affects the Red Wings. We were just talking about this before we started recording. Vancouver, of course, tweeting out their goodbyes to the Hammer, which again, I was surprised to learn that he had a nickname, but Travis Hamonic moving over to Ottawa for a third round pick. I know I'll just throw this out there. You had some thoughts, so I want to give you a chance to speak on them.
So this is definitely a trade made by a Pierre. Whether it's Pierre Dorian or Pierre Maguire remains to be seen, but I don't understand Ottawa's reasoning here. Like they're bad, like worse than Detroit right now. Bad. They're not making a playoff push anytime soon, and Hamonic is the kind of depth guy you'd put in if you wanted to make the playoffs. What's the logic here,
Yeah. If there was confusion or lack of interest for me to talk about the Travis Dermott trade, just confusion, I guess, is what kind of brings this one up. I don't know. It seemed right. Like it's just one of those, you saw the move I think I saw my point of seeing Vancouver say goodbye to the Hammer was one thing. And then for me to see it pop up as Ottawa picking him up, just one of those things like trade deadline
For
day.
a third too.
Were you expecting to see Ottawa picking up? Yeah, exactly, for a third too. Just question marks, right? I mean, I picture myself right now, just the anime look or the classic, just like kind of like tilting,
Yeah.
45 degrees to one angle. Okay, that happened. We could probably, the Robert Hagg moves over to Florida for a 6th round pick again.
Real blockbuster.
Yeah, am I excited about that? No. But here's one that is really exciting for me because, we were just taking a dump on Florida for the Ben Sherratt trade, but Claude Giroux moving over to Florida. I picked my one team to put money on in the offseason to win the cup. I put it on Florida. I could not be more excited that this happened because now Florida was already able to run 4 lines, and now it just kind of feels like it's not just running 4 lines. You have no idea who the first line is anymore with the way they're going to be putting this together.
This is like one of the most lopsided trades they could have made this year. I don't know how Florida paid less for Giroux than they paid for Ben Sherratt. Like they got Giroux and 2 prospects back and a draft pick for a 3rd round, a 1st round, and a late prospect, Owen Tippett. And the pick is lottery protected. Like
yeah. The fact that thing goes deep into 2024, I just some people were throwing out or you know what, let's talk about this because I saw it posted on Twitter. There's the asterisk, ladies and gentlemen. We have no idea if this is true, but it's one of these things that like somebody might have just gotten traction on Twitter because it's like you could connect dots, right? Like that's what we're always looking to do because there's always the space of like Giroux was a Flyer and now he's a Panther and nothing in the middle makes sense. All right. So, I mean, like it doesn't make as much sense as you would have expected it to make sense for Philly. Right. So the story that popped out, this could be super fake baloney. I just want people to like me on Twitter story.
Sources just trust me.
Giroux was saying he wanted to come back to Philly after he gives this a shot over in Florida. And Philly said no, which this is where it's kind of puzzling. And again, maybe my assertion that this connects dots is kind of like, no, it really doesn't. But if I may, he went from I will be traded to any team to I will only be traded to Florida after Philly said, no, we don't want you back. This is enough. Instead of just zipping their lip and letting Giroux think he could come back. But any hoozles, the only dot that really connects as to why this wasn't as great of return as you might expect for a guy who isn't, of course, the same Giroux as old, but he's still
great.
Very effective. Yeah, I think our boy Jay Fresh, who always like to give a shout out to, has him in the top 90%, or I'm sorry, the top 10% of all forwards still. So that's nothing to sneeze at.
He's exceptional. Like
right.
Any team is immediately better with him on it.
This is a win all the way.
It's a head
Florida.
Scratcher.
Yeah. It's definitely one way to put it. There's a lot of head scratchers so far. One that I don't know, this one works, right? Because it feels like Boston now has a long-term defenseman jumping down, of course, to the Ducks, acquiring John Moore, Vakinian, 1st round pick 2022, 2nd round. I could get. See, I'm always the guy that looks at what does Boston think they have. So I think it depends on where you valued Hampus Lindholm, and he was one of the guys I had starred and said I want him on my team. So there's a little bit of it like, yes, you gave up. They probably did overpay, but they overpaid to guarantee they got the guy they wanted for a long-term 8-year deal. I think off the top of my head, $6.5 million. So that's That's a pretty good contract. I think we've seen some guys get 8-year deals at 30 years old, which I'm pretty sure Hampus is at right now.
He's, I think,
That are
28.
what 28?
Yep.
That are way higher than $6.5 million. And you got to think at some point, cap's going back up eventually. I'm going to say I'm pretty confident in that. Eventually, the cap will go back up. They'll have even more space. Contract's going to hurt a lot less than you think it will.
He's had a kind of rough year, but you staple him to Charlie McAvoy, and I'm sure he'll be fine. Like, yeah, he's one of those guys where you put him with a good guy and he's set.
Yeah, and I think for me that was kind of where my head was at with trying to like shore up some of these holes for the Wingdings, and unfortunately, it's not going to happen. That 8-year deal just pretty much cements that dream is over. But again, I think you're right. I'm gonna say there's definitely not a argument to be made for this being an overpay. So definitely a lot went over to Anaheim. Anaheim, you could definitely make the argument won this trade, but there's always, again, for me, Boston got their guy that they were willing to pay for 8 years. So I feel like sometimes you just gotta deal out those extra 2023 and 2024 draft picks to make sure you land your guy. All right, so I got to hit pause here. We have a lot of thoughts. We have about 50 comments that I've completely ignored. So we're going to back up a little bit. I have enjoyed going through these trades. So let's back up. We'll kind of roll through this. Gray Ford is in love with the Vipers jersey.
Appreciate it, man.
Super fly. Mike S thrown out there. Stech was decent. Mike, quick thought. We'll each give a thought on this. Stecher was decent, and I think if you played him more, you might have a better argument for more than a 7th-round pick.
For me, it's a matter of he's probably decent on Detroit's defense, and I think that speaks more to its completely shallow depth more than Stecher's skill.
And I do like that thought quite a bit, and I'm a little jealous right now. We do have a where's Mike? Mike couldn't make it. We couldn't have lucked out better that I had a guest lined up, and it just so happens that Mike ran into some trouble and couldn't make it to the episode. So it's a lose win. Somewhere fits in there. We lose a Mike, we win a Jake, and we win that I'm not just sitting here talking to you guys about these trades.
It's a Wings game with a Seider point, but still results in a loss in overtime.
I love that. Let's see. We do have a lot of Stecher thoughts, but again, I don't know how deep we can go on that. There was some Marazzic thoughts that I wanted to touch on, and I'm not. Jeez, Pete, where are they? Here we go. Anthony throwing out there. The Marazzic stands, wanting Marazzic back. No thanks. Mike S throwing out there. Poor Marazzic. But this is the one I really liked. Jared Shaw thrown out there. Holland getting his boy back. Now, I saw that and I went, oh my God. I can like count the minutes till that actually happens. The very seconds until we see Marazzic heading over to Edmonton. What Jake, top of mind thought.
Ken Holland is like the dude who's in a relationship with like a very toxic relationship, and he's like, no, this time it'll be different. I can fix them. Things will be different.
Wonderfully put. I absolutely will not be surprised by this. Jared, you nailed it, dude. That is probably going to end up being comment of the show. I'm sorry we got it so early.
The only like downside I see to acquiring Marazzic, besides his just awful save percentage, is the fact that you've got him on the books for another 2 years after that, and you're helping Toronto. Does anybody really want to help Toronto?
Right, not us. And I think maybe we only mentioned this before we started recording, but if you want to replace Greiss, and Jake, I think you even brought up a good free agent option once we roll into that. If you want to get rid of Greiss, just hold on. You got 20 games left. We're almost through. We're almost done with the Greiss experiment. We are not trying to save this season in any way, shape, or form. It is done. In fact, we mentioned in the last episode, it might be time that we just embrace the tank and go as deep into this as possible. Because if you're not going to the playoffs and you're playing, geez, Pete, if every 3 out of 5 games looks like some of those stinkers where you're getting blown out by Arizona, I mean, let it happen. Just bury
Lean
yourself.
into it.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm pretty sure, Jake, this actually, let's do this. Let's ask the coaching question.
Ha.
So we've gone through the trades. At the start of the season, I think when we had you on, you were 2 weeks later. I think we were talking about, wouldn't it be weird if Blashill was getting Coach of the Year notice? Because of, right, I know. I see.
Boy, oh boy.
Because of the group he had, and we were saying, like, can you believe he's getting wins out of this? And of course, now there's a reason that most people didn't think that, and that's because they could see what was to come, or at least your best bet would be what we've seen would eventually come. Coaching change, absolute happening in the off season, or is there still a chance that Jeffy boy is behind the bench?
I gotta say, I've tried asking around, and they keep their cards close to their chest. Ideally, I would like to see some sort of change, just given the fact that the power play has continued to stink for about 7 years straight. Blashill's had 3 assistant coaches: Pat Ferschweiler, Dan Bilsma, and now Alex Tenge. And this year, Tenge looked pretty good. And then he fell into the exact same patterns of mistakes that the last 2 assistant coaches did. So, like, after a while, when you start to see those same results, like, who do you blame? But on the other hand, like, out of the people that I would replace Blashill with, like, I guess my standards are pretty high. I would want Ricard Gronberg, who is the head coach of a Swiss league team.
That is a very sexy pick right now.
Mm-hmm.
Head on over to that Swiss National League. That is looking pretty good.
And I'm a pretty big fan of Lane Lambert too. I believe he's with New York right now, and he's done a very good job.
Yeah, there were. Now, this was only brought up in our comments, and then it was tweeted at me as well. It might have been the same person that did it. Gronberg's getting comments and notice from Lidstrom. So I don't know how much of this. I mean, you take a look at Lidstrom getting picked up, and you see instantly, like, like these cute stories come out that he's talking to the players, and then you see Seider shooting more, and it's like, oh, that's cool. He talked to the guys, and now they know to shoot more. I would think that Lidstrom's use is more for bringing a guy like Gronberg over. Yeah. Like that is where you have him come and make a difference. And I feel like that could have been a chess move by Yzerman way in advance, that when he was ready to make a move like that. And it's one of those things too, right? Like we talked about Ben Chiarot getting a first-round pick for Montreal. And some of that is just those ideas getting put out by sometimes the team internally, and then all of a sudden it just manifests. It's like it's manifesting itself into reality. And that's how Chiarot fetches you so much.
Mm-hmm.
You got to wonder, with Lidstrom making the point that he likes Gronberg, that all of a sudden he's become a candidate for the Detroit Red Wings. And I will say, I have no problem saying this. I kind of feel like, even though the groundswell, I think, has been slowly building over the year, once you first heard about him, I kind of felt like that was out of nowhere. It's not very often that you pick a coach out of the Swiss league and you're like, that's your guy, because there's quite a few different European leagues out there that you could pick a head coach from any team. So that's where this kind of feels like that did come out of nowhere, but everything is rolling fast, and this kind of things got put out there for a reason. It just kind of feels like now those chess pieces are getting put into place. And you're seeing the coaching staff kind of crumble from the inside because they probably feel the pressure. And
I spoke to a pretty notable Red Wings alumni. You'll actually be seeing the interview. I'll be posting some of it on my Twitter later this week. But he mentioned he's internally involved in the organization, and he said to be patient. He said patience is the number one point that we've got to make here. So if at any point you're like sick of Blashill, which I imagine a vast majority of people are, after seeing what he's done for 7 years in a row, there's a plan.
Any hints as to who that person inside is?
He has won 4 cups. We'll put it that way.
Okay.
He calls himself the mayor of Hockeytown, so that'd be pretty easy to figure that out.
I think I do really like that point too, because when you're talking about moving guys, and we were talking about, do you fix Greiss right now? Absolutely not, because there's no point. Like, we're not trying to save this season. And then we threw out there too, before we started recording, what does patience mean? And you can get sick of waiting, but there's also that long-term game, and how much do you get back from being patient and waiting? You really never know from any direction, but I wouldn't say there's a move out there that's so obvious to everyone that the Red Wings have to make it and it changes everything, right? And until that, for coaching, until that happens for players, personnel players, either way, until that becomes so obvious, and then we don't make that move, I think that's where you can get angry. But there's nothing out there that seems so obvious that we've missed it already, or that you'd want to wind the clock back and change something. It's just about waiting until that happens. Then maybe you can get angry. But right now, since none of that's happening, you just got to kind of stick with what Yzerman has always said the Yzer plan is drafting. And you have to assume patience is a word they throw out there. I've always said flexibility, and you don't get flexibility when you're locking up Marazzic for another 2 years.
And you saw what Yzerman did with Tampa.
Right.
And he had John Cooper as the head coach for, I think, 8 years. I think he's the longest tenured coach in front of Blash. But I think that Jeff Blashill is John Cooper? Absolutely not. Am I curious to see what he could do with the rest of the season? Certainly. If a better opportunity comes by, take it and run.
Now, we do have, we got to go back into the comments here. Performance art thrown out there. If Blash goes, I won't cry, but he's done a decent job. And I think, to performance art's point, Jeff doesn't have the easiest job in the world. There's if anybody looks at this job and says this team was ready to go to the playoffs this year, you're fucking nuts. We, mid-season, or I should say around December, if you were sitting there and saying, this team definitely isn't going to the playoffs when they were sniffing it, I mean, that at that point, you're just super negative. I think it was still fun to kind of play that game and say, oh, it would be fun if we made it to the playoffs. But again, beginning of the season, if you were like, this team's definitely playoff bound, and if Jeff doesn't get there, he needs to get fired mid-season. Again, crazy. I think the things where you see Jeff pulling a goalie twice in a game, not really knocking it out of the park with lineups, and kind of messing things up where it gets so I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna reuse the word, but it gets so messy with what you're actually trying to do with a line, where you see guys that you thought were role players and were like a Giovanni Smith being on the second line when there's clearly some other options you could throw in there.
You should not be putting Adam Ernie anywhere near the power play. And the fact that he was there all season is, I don't know if it speaks more to the depth or the confusing coaching decisions, but bad.
Exactly. And that's one of those things where it was like, it was really cute last year when Adam Ernie had his, was it 10 points in 10 games?
11 or 12 goals or something. Yeah,
that was really cute. It was fun. We created a shirt that said retire 73. We had a lot of fun with that. But, we all knew the reality. And I think even the arbitrators were looking at Adam Ernie's situation. And when he was getting paid in the off season, they're like, that might be too much, Steve. I think you might have thrown too much out there. But
the guy has scored under a goal per month this season. And I don't think he's scored since January, like early January or November. I don't know, one of those two dates, but it's been a while.
Yeah, and he's not a bad person, but
no.
Yeah, he's just
into
Jeff's
NFTs, but
yeah, right. But I'm not on a hockey team for some good reasons. So all right, so I think I think, yeah, performance art, his follow-up comment was Tank City, baby. So I'm I'm all for that one. Now I did just kind of improvise that point. We do have some actual Red Wings, since we're not getting any freaking trades in. I'm refreshing cap friendly right now as if that was gonna like, hey, look at all these trades you missed. Like 6 of them roll in. Nothing yet. I'm gonna go to Twitter real quick. We're gonna break the fourth wall here. Nothing. So we could go into how'd you feel about that Seattle game? Because I have some things we can kind of dissect here, and everybody, of course, you can throw your thoughts in there. How much you enjoyed that third period implosion, 4 goals.
To describe it in a word, sloppy.
Ooh, I like it. This is one where I think the third period actually brought what the entire game looked like into reality. Can I say that? I think Ned stood on his head, and God bless him. And this was just one of those things where I'm highlighting the expected goals for percentage here for that Kraken game. This is one of our widest, if not the widest margin of the season. 75% of expected goals chances fell in Seattle's favor in that game. If that doesn't open your eyes with Seattle being one of the worst teams of the season, actually, it does 2 things. Ned is fine. Anybody panicking about Ned over the last month, just get out of here.
It's a job of confidence, and he's been doing his best, and like, despite the team's best efforts, he's done a great job.
Yeah, and I think it was Prashant who threw out the statistics about how in December Ned was just out of his mind and was the best goals saved above expected goaltender, and that's how we stayed so close in the playoff battle. But we were still absolute garbage in regards to giving up expected goals against. So yeah, for me, this game, the third period was just everything kind of falling in line of how it should have. But I do want to kind of like let's ignore this one. I do want to harp on what's been going on with Ned, and because I still got some pushback last night on Twitter, which I'm not happy about. So last month, right? And we've brought this up on previous episodes, just so you know, Jake, is Alex's struggles. But things are starting to shape out. You're going back to the Edmonton game. Again, Edmonton had 5 minutes of puck possession, which pretty much won them that game to start when it was us against them. It's about a week ago now. Thomas Greiss gives up 3 goals in 5 minutes. Absolute disaster. Ned comes in. Not the greatest goaltending performance of all time, but definitely getting him back in that range where his expected goal or his goal saved above expected was just under -1, which is, I mean, that's in that statistical relevance area where it might as well be 0 at that point. So he's just given up as much as he should have. Again, against Vancouver, shutout. Great goal saved above expected there, 2.13.
Spectacular game.
And then against Seattle, I would say another great game, except, the third period, things just started to go the way they should have been going. So his goal saved above expected, the 0.48. And you guys will find that stat on the far right of all 3 of these tables. Jake, my opinion, and I want to get yours, and maybe you'll just agree, so I'm stealing the easy opinion here. When Ned looks good, it's his own style, and I've been throwing this out on Twitter for a while, but it's his own style and skill that seems to become a highlight reel and put the Red Wings in position to win a game. Because it's those 2 things, and it's not something like, really, you see, and Ned is coming from Carolina, so this is kind of me talking out of both sides of my mouth. But any goaltender that seems to go to Carolina seems to benefit from their style of play, where the goaltender is benefiting from the team. Flip side, because Ned plays the style of game he does play, he's actually saving more goals. But anyway, the point of me saying that's why Ned's going to be fine. It's been a stamina issue, I would say, number 1. And I think you put it out there as well already, was confidence. But
and it's like important to note that this is like the most consecutive amount of games he's ever played in his career at the NHL level. I think he played under 26 games last year, and a couple scattered games years before. But like, this is the first year he's had like a solid, consistent workload. To me, he kind of reminds me of like you remember like Mike Vernon and like how he used to play, how he was like super aggressive all the time, like just a very
Absolutely.
cerebral guy. Like that's 100% what Ned reminds me of. So he just needs to be like in that zone in order to hit that next gear to his game.
Yeah, and I think I'd be okay too, like knowing how well Ned has played these last 3 games. I think I'm okay if you move forward with Ned and and I'm not saying this will continue. I'm just saying with how well he played this last week, how well he played up until we want to put like mid-January on there, I think was when he hit that threshold of like the most games he's ever played in his career and things started to dip. If he can cut that in half, like I'm okay if there's like those times every season for a goaltender to figure things out. I do remember that being a struggle in 2002. Hasek took a dip. And then in 2008, I mean, we were struggling with who's actually going to start in the playoffs for us with the same sort of dip in February, March. So I think that's 2 things where Ned is going to figure this out on his own, but it's also maybe not as far a dip. I think this has been a pretty deep dip for Ned. I think that's fair to say, but it also kind of feels like that's pretty normal for every goaltender in the NHL. Maybe not your Vasilevskis, but for
Your
a vast
Igor
majority of
Shesterkin.
goalies, yeah, they're gonna hit a dip once they hit the midpoint of the season, and it's kind of one of those things where you got to regroup mentally, physically, and it just becomes something that you have to weather the storm. And if anybody needs more positives to say that Ned is going to be fine moving forward into next season, it's that it looks like he got through some really horrible times and gave us 3 solid games in a row here. So I think that is a point that should not be ignored, is that he's still a young kid, and we can play the Michael Bunting rookie game here of how old he actually is, and should it count. We won't play that game. But Ned's extremely young. And I think this is just one of those things where he showed a ton of maturity for that age to get through this struggle and come out with these last few games.
Alex Nedeljkovic is 26 years old. He's a youthful boy in the prime of his life, just getting started. Michael Bunting is 26 years old, but he's ancient, old, decrepit grandpa.
What an old piece of shit. All right. We don't have any more new news to go over, so we've still just got more things to dissect in regards to what could happen, and that's where this came up. I don't know if you saw the Emily Kaplan ESPN article 3 days ago. But for anybody who hasn't seen it, and for all the podcast listeners, Emily threw out there, a few people have told me to keep an eye on them. And there's a belief that anyone on the rosters in play outside of Moritz, Seider, and Lucas Raymond, though I have a hard time seeing them part with Captain Dylan Larkin either. This text I received from an NHL executive should put the rest of the league on notice. Stevie Y is up to something. Dangerous words is how Emily Kaplan caps it off.
Well, she was clearly
Emily,
talking about
can you
the Troy
please
Stecher trade.
Absolutely, it's been done. The 7th round pick has moved.
Oh, he was up to something, all right.
Emily, as I've always pleaded, please come on my show. I don't know how many times you're going to ignore my DMs on Instagram, but here we go. This will continue. From your biggest fan, you couldn't have made me more excited. But what could this possibly be? You know what I mean? Like I'm glad I shared the show notes with you, because I don't want you to feel like I'm putting you on the spot. I don't need to know exactly what Steve's doing here. We're talking high level. But I mean, if this is up to something, Stevie Y is up to something. I mean, this is something where we're always trying to figure out what's the timeline for the Yzer plan, and then Steve comes back and says there is no timeline, there's no timetable. We're just doing what we can, and we're trying to improve this team, iteratively, year by year. That's fine, Steve. But if you're doing this, if you're up to something, you are cutting whatever that timeline is in half. And it would have to be huge, and it would have to be would it have to be more than Mantha and fetching a first and a Verana type move?
See, now the name I've always kept an eye on is Travis Konechny from Philadelphia. Big fan of him. And I think what could really benefit him is a change of scenery. I'm hoping that if Stevie takes a look at any roster style player in order to flip a player, like let's say Filip Zadina, Konechny's the kind of guy I would look out for. But as far as big moves, I mean, I'd be looking at Tyler Bertuzzi going. I'd be looking at anybody not named Seider, Raymond, or Larkin on the block. And I don't blame them. This team is not ready to compete this year, obviously. Next year, I don't think they're going to be ready yet. I think you're the earliest point you're going to ever look at for playoff contention, unless you get huge seasons from like Simon Edvinsson and a bunch of other rookies, is the 2023-24 season.
Well, I'm gonna throw this out there. We can put the names, and they've been talked about all season. Bertuzzi and Zadina are the fun ones. Those are the ones you can title.
Might get killed on the internet again for positing a Zadina trade.
I was gonna say, yeah, I can title any of my YouTube episodes, "Will Filip Zadina get traded tonight?" And I'll get not only a ton of views, but a ton of comments. But I refuse to do that. What I want to know, is it possible that Steve might move one of his draft picks? More importantly, would Steve move a first round pick? I think if this was a up to something move, I would say yes. I think it could go into that realm. Depending, I mean, it would have to kind of play this game of, how much value do you put in first round picks if you're not getting a top 10, which we're getting in that realm where it's almost going to be guaranteed. But
I think it depends on the return.
Absolutely.
Now, if the New York Rangers said that they want to trade Alexei Lafreniere,
oh man,
and they asked for a first round pick in return, first off, they're not going to do that. Second,
yeah, if we're playing Who Says No, that was Steve who put that out there, and it's the Rangers saying no.
Yeah.
I think I'd be on board with doing that, like, no problem. To be like, when I saw that, that would get me so excited, and I don't know if I'd have any real. I don't think I'd have any regrets. I think I would trust Steve almost implicitly, just to go head first into that and come out with a smiling face. That's one of those for me where the more first round picks and the more draft picks we keep bringing in, and we keep having exciting, turnouts and production from our college prospects and our junior players, and we keep going, wow, another guy led the league and whatever. And then we also have to put the asterisk on there, he might be a Red Wing in 2 to 3 years, and you got to cross your fingers that injuries don't get in the way. And there's so many different variables that could make it go in the wrong direction from where, a Red Wings fan would want it to go.
Honestly,
you trade a first round pick for Lafreniere, you're taking some of those years off that you got to wait.
One of the hottest takes that I think I have is, while we're worrying about, getting a first line center, just wait a couple years. Hopefully you get somebody that pans out. But if you don't, Austin Matthews' contract ends in 2 years. And you could make a push for him. You could hypothetically get what might be the second best player in the league with the right offer and the right team built around him. That's potential for some serious wins.
Now, you don't think Austin Matthews is going to be tempted to play in a 3,000 seat arena down in Arizona?
I think he would love taking the Segway to work every day.
Now, that would be, oh my God, the difference between going from the Toronto media to playing for the Coyotes in a 3,000 seat arena. Man, I don't even know. That would be so jarring. That would just completely flip you on your wrong end. It'd be, I don't know is it easier to get up in the morning or to just be impossible because you wouldn't even know which side of the bed to get out of. The complete opposite situation. Also, probably no more winning. All right. Let me take. I got to take a pick. Quick look. I don't even peek look. Peek. That's what I was looking for. Quick peek at the comments here. Darren Nichols, I see you're in there, man. I got a lot of comments from conversations. We're well past, so I apologize there. Miss so much. Oh my God. Sorry, Darren. Anthony.
I just want to take Anthony's advice on this one.
Oh, okay. There it is. I can see. Can you block this guy? Thanks, Anthony. I'm glad that you saw that in there. Let me do this. We're gonna put him in timeout. There he goes. He's in timeout now. Darren, actually, listeners or anybody on the YouTube page here, I apologize for apologizing to Darren. Wow. All right. He's out of there. Don't have to worry about the 50 comments he threw in. But I think we're good. Yeah. To sum up this little subject here, I think there's a piece of me that just wants some sort of chaos. I think for Jake, you the writer, what does chaos do for you, even if you hate the move?
Gives you something to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, do you just want that chaos? Even there's a piece of fandom I think comes into play, but how badly do you need that chaos sometimes?
I think it adds, it's like throwing a pepper into a good salad or like a good dish. It's that little bit of spice that just really just gets things going. It gives me a lot more to talk about. There's a lot more potential in, what could happen. Like last year's Mantha trade. I mean, that thing had mileage to it. You could even still talk about it to this day. Look how Verana's doing. Look how Mantha's doing. I think chaos is what would make the NHL a lot more exciting. It needs a little more of that like anarchy.
It is. We're getting way more than what Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick alluded to. I think a week ago on Hockey Night in Canada, they said a lot of the big names weren't going to move. And what's funny, I think we've seen a lot of the big names move. Maybe they were just talking about Chychrun, but the problem is that I saw that and that they were talking about that, and I went, God damn NHL again. You have an amazing trade deadline potential, and it's just going to get thrown away because too many GMs were scared. Now, clearly, again, that hasn't happened. We've seen a ton of overpayment for some of these guys, so we get that chaos. But it does suck that's where my head went, and I immediately believed it because we've seen it too often with too many big name free agents just signing with the team that they're already on. I mean, I could probably
this last offseason. I thought he was going to go to St. Louis.
Oh my God. Yep. Yeah, that was such a bummer. And I could probably right now start to connect some dots. Like maybe it's just because I wanted Hampus so bad. But you look at Hampus now signing with Boston, and it's like you didn't want to give someone else a shot. See if we can get that 6.5 up to 7 or 7.5, maybe 8. Come on, let's make it interesting. I don't want to spend 8, but
right, like Tomas Hertl, number 1 name on the trade block this year, and now he's back. Boring. He's sticking around for another 8 years.
San
Jose got one huge anchor of a contract off their books with Evander Kane, and they were like, yeah, let's just add another one. Like, what you've got to deal with, like, they've got one of the most screwed up caps I think in the whole league. Like,
and everybody's got that plus 30 attached to their huge contract lengths and numbers. It's insane. San Jose apparently has the snack room has to be insane. I think the facilities have to be amazing because I don't know.
It's like a retirement home now. I mean, it's a bunch of old guys.
You're just comfortable there, right? That's got to be it.
But the sunny weather,
Yeah. I like Jace throwing out there. Let's not forget same injury for Mantha and Verana. So crazy that both came back around in the same time, and they both put up a couple of 2-goal games too. Yeah, Eric thrown out there. Mantha's back, doing well.
Yeah, he's got 5 points in 8 games, I think.
Yeah, you talk about like how that trade still has some mobility in it for a writer. Like you could still keep running with it, and it's going to be fun to keep coming back to that and seeing how these two go. Because I don't think it would be fun if right now we looked at it and Mantha still had 0 goals this year, and Verana just seemed to be running away and we had to stop checking in. I think it would be really nice to see both of these guys continue to produce.
Yeah.
And it was really just one of those things where they needed a different setting. Now, Verana had a hot start. I think right now we saw like the reality of missing so much time and getting your legs back underneath you. I think that's pretty obvious the last couple of games.
I'm pretty curious to see how Mantha's going to do in the playoffs. He didn't get a lot of time last year, but I think this year we get a chance to see, like, is he going to be the kind of guy who goes off in the playoffs, or is he going to totally freeze up? Is he going to Mitch Marner, go cold?
Right.
Or is he going to turn into one of those, just monsters?
And am I crazy that, like, I want to see it happen? I want to see him go off.
I would love to see him go off. Yeah.
I was definitely, I don't want to throw you into this controversy, have you lose a bunch of followers, but you've probably already gave your opinions at some point. I was a huge fan of Stafford winning the Super Bowl. I do feel bad for anybody.
Stafford.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I do feel bad for any of these players that, I mean, say what you will about the margins between the greatest player in the NHL and the worst player, but there's a lot of guys in the middle, and these guys are all still world-class athletes. Even the worst guy. That wasn't the point I was trying to make. But these guys are all world-class athletes, and this little chunk of Detroit sports time has been an absolute mess. And any of these guys that can sneak out of here, Verlander can go win a championship. Stafford now, and yeah, I'd love to see Mantha go off, and it's not anything like you want him to go. Yeah, take that, Red Wings. Even though that last,
the guy's a successful player. I think he's got some serious potential. He's never had a season above 40 points, which is really heartbreaking because I think he's got 40 goal potential, or maybe had 40 goal potential, but. I feel like he is overdue some success,
Yeah. And just to warm our hearts. Honestly, you know what it is? It's just me being selfish again.
Like, I love Tomas Tatar. I'd love to see him, make it big. And Nyquist, too. Always love Gus Nyquist.
That was actually Anthony thrown out there. Remember Tatar and Nyquist. Yeah, that was one. I don't know if you go through like your old tweets. I have an app called Time Hop that shows me all my old shitty Facebook posts, but it does also show me some of the old memes I've made along the way, and seeing the old one of Nyquist and Zetterberg at Leo's Coney Island and making the joke about, man, I can't believe I've been in Grand Rapids these last couple of years. I loved. Man, I was so in love with Nyquist. I was like, this is our next Datsuk. But
man, I had a post like, I don't know, back in 2014 or 15 where I was like Brian Sproul, Xavier Ouellette, and I think like one or two other guys, and they're Tomas Jurko. I'm like, remember these names. These are going to be the future stars for the Red Wings.
Part of the problem, I would say, because what I did, I remember getting Sproly a couple of Norris trophies in NHL EA Sports. Like I would build out through, whoever we drafted. I was keeping them all.
Let's put Mantha on the fourth line, as like 18-year-old. He goes off.
Well, I'm going to do this. Our big update for the Red Wings is a new Mojo episode. So we're probably going to lose a ton of viewers now that I said that for the live views. So people are going to go check that out. But that clearly means at least no Nick Leddy trades, no something super awesome yet. And we're coming up on an hour. So the only thing I really had left was a little ditty we like to do is just kind of give our picks here for whatever games are coming up for the week. And I think we just have this Tuesday game against Philly. And this is interesting. We take from Jay Fresh. This is his team versus team rankings here. This will be interesting because the Red Wings have a small majority of the wins here when we were looking at 5-on-5 goals and expected goals and Corsi power play finishing, and then the defensive side. Or actually, is this? No, yeah, it is. All right, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Jesus, 5, 6 to 4. Man, I almost couldn't count there. So here's the interesting thing. Out of all these statistics for the podcast listeners, the Red Wings have the advantage, 6 to 4 in regards to all those advanced analytics. And what we've done actually, Jake, is just gone ahead and said, you know what? Based on some of these, I think we could find a win. One of the things that's go ahead.
This is one of the ones where I think it could be a pretty easy win for Detroit. Philly just lost their best player, and Detroit just gained one of their best back. So they've got Verona back, and Philly's going to lose, has lost Giroux. So depending on what the Wings get rid of at the trade deadline, I think this could go one way.
Yeah, this is one of those two where I think I still have some good vibes from the Kraken game, probably because we were leading 2-0 going into the third. And you're coming off a 1-0 win against Vancouver and the shutout. This is one that's going to get me moving too far in one direction with the positive vibes. So I'm totally going to acknowledge that. But yeah, this will be a win for the Wingdings. I think what I was getting at was that these are actually misleading, all these statistics, because of all the moves that have happened, probably in positive for the Wingdings, like you mentioned, negative for Philly. So this is even going deeper into our favor, and especially with the offensive side here. The only thing Philly has an advantage on us is 5-on-5 Corsi, but
and goaltending, but
oh yeah, from the offensive side, that the 5-on-5 Corsi, I would say too, for some reason, we've been able to manage this season, like the finishing side of things. I don't know if it's because of Larkin and Bertuzzi and now Verona coming in and just having these unbelievable shot percentages to carry us through some of these games. But, Jeff this is one of the things that I don't know if Jeff, there's the big things and there's the little things. And I made the argument, I don't know if Jeff knows this team, because at a post-game press conference, he said, this team does not know that you can't just flip a switch and turn it on. And that is absolutely how they've won so many goddamn games this year, is just flipping a switch and turning it on. And it's almost like Jeff just completely ignored that. So what I'm getting at is the only advantage Philly has here, this is how much I like to overthink these, is something that we've been able to overcome all year. You can go ahead, take all your shots. Sure, some of it's good games from Ned, but throw your pucks at the net, and somehow we end up with an unbelievable shooting percentage from just a couple of guys, and we still win. I think we have what did we get up to? I think we have at least 5 games this year where Bertuzzi's walked away with like a 60% shooting percentage, which is just
I think that first game against Tampa, he had close to 100 shooting percentage.
Yeah, just anytime he wanted to throw it at the net, like top of the circle, he's just like, here we go. We need another one. We got this. All right. The viewers are dropping. Guys, if you have a second, please hit the like button in here. If you're new to the show, I got to thank Jake for coming along. I got to think that we've got some new viewers because these are pretty good live numbers right now. I'm liking these. Jake, I got to appreciate or throw out the appreciation, because I think you're bringing on some new viewers for us. Is there maybe getting tired of two brothers just bitching at each other for an hour? But it's good to not have that for once. But yeah, guys, if you have a second, if you enjoyed the show, please hit the subscribe button. The best thing you can do for us right now, Apple Podcasts, go ahead, subscribe, rate, and review. Those reviews have helped us every time. Our listenership actually has doubled every time we get those reviews. We slowed down a little bit in reviews. If you have a second, just jump in there. Let us know how you like this episode. Spotify, you've got your star ratings. We greatly appreciate it. And of course, the shop, bodpodcast.com, hit the shop button. And you can see the Red Wings Rant shop. We've got our new shirts. We've got the hashtag Save Us Verona shirt out there. And our brand new Red Wings Rant logo. If you guys want to check that out too, I got the new zip up hoodie coming. It is super sexy. I got to tell you guys, it's soft and squishy and I love it. Jake, You are an absolute hero. It's your second time on the show for good reason, because I absolutely enjoy reading your work, and I really love talking to you too. I got to get some Elden Ring hours in there, so we could have actually chatted about that instead of me just complaining about.
We'd be here all night if we talked about Elden Ring.
But yeah, I mean, guys, if again, Rivard at Rivard NHL is an absolute perfect follow for Red Wings fans. But of course, all of his articles on Winging It and Motown as well. And you know what? Just look up Jake, because we talked about this the last time that you were on the show, but how much work you've done outside of the Red Wings, and it's actually snuck into the Twitter account. We've gotten some of those music takes as well that I'm a really big fan of. So keep those coming. But yeah, guys, if you're not following Jake yet, go do it right now. Hell of a follow, and a good pal of the show. So we really appreciate it, Jake.
Yeah, hey, thanks for inviting me. Very happy to be here.
And we'll cross our fingers on anything juicier than a 7th round pick for Troy Stecher coming in. And
I think somebody earlier said, yeah, but watch the trades happen. I bet as soon as you finish this, major trade will happen. Yeah, I bet so too.
Yeah, it's inevitable. I'll try. Tell you what, guys, I'll try and come right back. Jake, you're free for the night. I'll try and come right back and tackle it. Thanks again, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and yeah, we'll see what happens up until 3:00 tomorrow. All right, everybody, have a good one.